what's up? Max here with Hokey down here. Just ignore the band-aid. I have a mole there and I cut it all the time despite my best efforts. So that is I gotta go the Nelly route right now. But I posted a video last week, and basically in the video I covered kind of avoid these common and costly digital marketing agency mistakes. And it got a lot of good feedback, especially on Facebook where I posted it. And a few people asked me, hey, can you do a more in-depth video and kind of cover your top 10 agency tips? So that's what I decided to do. I have a list right here of my top 10 tips. I have about 24 minutes before I have to do a live training for my students on Facebook, which if you're interested in, they're part of my Unicorn Academy, which is a really, really cool marketing training platform. But anyway, I'll plug that at another date. You can get more information in the link below. So, running an agency, if you watch my last video, it's definitely it's a labor of love. You do it because you love it. And if you don't, that's actually one of my tips that I'll get to at the very end. It's very hard to make it work because it is a lot of work. You don't get a lot of love from clients. You're always kind of the person that's getting yelled at. Even if you're doing incredible work, you're the one they blame. So it's definitely a challenging job, and it's an industry that I know a lot of people who are in it struggle with, and they encounter a lot of challenges and a lot of frustrations, and oftentimes they kind of want to just go do something else. But if you want to continue doing it, if you're thinking about getting into it, here's a great list to kind of put you as close to success as you can. Obviously, just knowing these 10 things isn't going to make you successful. I can't personally make you successful or make your agency work. But if you combine these things with really, really hard work, a lot of talent, and a little bit of luck, you should be all right. So what's the first tip? So the first tip here is to specialize. And some of these might be obvious, right? So if you think some of these are obvious, you can scroll through the next one. But for a lot of people, they're not obvious because I see a lot of people who are running very broad agencies. So when I say specialize, I mean you need to focus on your X factor. What is your specialty? What is it about your team, about yourself, if you're an individual, kind of single person entrepreneur agency? What is it about you that makes you better than everybody else? Why should a client go to you, right? And so in order to really make the claim that, hey, you should hire me because we're the best, it needs to be specific, right? You can't make the claim, I can't make the claim that, hey, you should hire Unicorn because we are the best marketers in the world. We're the best digital marketers in the world. It's not the truth, right? We're really good at what we do. We're not the best. So you need to focus on what is it that you can say confidently you're the best or one of the best at, right? That you're going to get excellent results here that you wouldn't get other places, right? So maybe that's SEO. Maybe that's Facebook advertising. Maybe that's native advertising. Maybe that's you're a content play. You're really good at copywriting, right? Maybe you're email marketing, right? Text marketing, whatever it might be, YouTube ads. You need to figure out what that thing is, right? What excites you and what are you great at? If you can combine those two things, something that you really love doing with something you're also really good at, that's a recipe for success, right? Because the more you love something, the more you're going to go above and beyond. You're going to put more hours in, right? You're going to work harder at it. So you're never really going to get better at it, okay? So specialization is huge. Figure out what that thing is that you're the best at and you love and double down on that, right? That is what your agency does. You focus on, hey, we help e-commerce stores scale with Facebook ads. That's what we do. Anything else that's not in our wheelhouse, it's not for us. And there's a tip here how you can still make money even without being a broad agency, right? Because right now everybody is a social media marketing agency, right? So there's tens of thousands of SMMAs out there that are, I thought by abbreviating and make it easier for me to say, because sometimes I speak very fast and I have a little lisp, but it did not. So there's a lot of social media marketing agencies out there, and they're very broad, right? All of them are offering social. They're all offering community management. They're all doing SEO, Facebook ads, Google ads. They do everything, right? And here's the thing. They're not great at any of those things. They're mediocre at all those things, right? And the only way that they can compete is by price, which gets me to point number 2, which is do not become a commodity, right? The quickest way to become a commodity is to be broad, right? So these tips kind of blend into each other, right? If you're broad, and you're mediocre at everything, you can't compete on being the best, right? So how do you compete? Well, if I can't say that I'm the best at this, or we're gonna give you excellent results, we're just gonna give you good work at a good price, right? So it's price to value. That's really what it comes down to. Is anything you sell in anywhere in the world, in any industry, at the end of the day, the consumer looks at price to value. Okay, what are they charging, and what's the perceived value that I'm going to get for those dollars, right? So if I'm really, really good at what I do, and I'm one of the best Facebook ad experts in the world for e-commerce, I can charge a premium because the perceived value is very high, right? If I'm going to hire Russell Brunson to build funnels, right? I know Russell Brunson is one of the best marketers in the world, but he's also probably the best at funnels in the world, right? So he's going to charge an astronomical amount of money to build funnels. And people will pay him for that because they know he's the best in the world at that, right? But if you're a 22-year-old agency owner who does Facebook posts and you build funnels and you build Shopify stores and you run Facebook ads and you kind of have mediocre results for a bunch of people, you can't charge a premium, right? So the only way to get people to hire you is to lower your price to a point that's compelling enough that the consumer sees the price to value being even. And once you get into that game, you go out of business. It's very, very difficult, especially in a service business where you have overhead and you have to increase both your variable and fixed costs in order to scale to service more clients. That's a very, very slippery slope, because once you become known as a commodity, you can't just flip the switch and say we're now premium, right? You can't be, what's a good example? Let's say you're like the Circuit City, right? You can't be Circuit City, which is out of business now, and then one day decide we're gonna be Burberry, right? Obviously different industries, but just brand, right? And that's the reason why companies like Circuit City and these big box e-com store electronic retailers went out of business, because Amazon came around, and Amazon was able to beat them on price and the experience. So what happened is these big box stores, they were competing on price, right? That was one of their big things. They did a lot of deals, a lot of sales and stuff. So they became known as discount retailers. Now here's the problem. If your only selling point is that you have the lowest prices, but somebody comes around and actually can do lower prices than you, what's going to happen? You're going to get no more customers, right? Because you're not offering great quality or any other value. You're just price. But if your price is not the best anymore, you can't sell anymore. So you go out of business. And that's what happened to pretty much every big box retailer once Amazon came around, among a variety of other factors why Amazon won. But the same thing is true with a lot of the like Coach and those brands, right? Once you go down and become a discounter, it's very hard to go back up again, right? However, if you're Hermes or AP or any of these really high-end brands that are charging $75,000 a watch, hey, people pay 75 grand a watch. Not everybody, a very small amount of people, but they're going to drop that money because they know that they're never going to do a flash sale and sell an AP for $500 or $1,000, right? You're not going to see somebody walk around with an AP watch or an Hermes bag that is making $50,000 a year. So that's a big one. Don't become a commodity, right? So number 2. So number 3, I think this is an interesting one. Have a face. So I truly believe that a lot of successful agencies have a strong kind of forward-facing influencer as part of the business, right? So you look at VaynerMedia. Gary Vee, very, very famous influencer. He's everywhere. VaynerMedia obviously does great work. Obviously, it's more than just Gary. They have a huge team, big offices, massive clients. But as Gary even says, a lot of the clients hire VaynerMedia because of Gary, right? They want to work with Gary. And so they're willing to drop a lot of money to work at VaynerMedia. And now whether VaynerMedia is actually the best at what they do or not, that's debatable. But they're able to charge a premium because they have this very influential face who's out there speaking at the biggest events in the world. He's on the biggest stages in the world. He's with all the other celebrities, right? So big companies want to work with him in any capacity they can. And working with his agency is one of the easiest ways to do that. So obviously not everyone's going to be Gary, right? But even our agency, me speaking on stages, me having a course, me creating content, putting myself out there, even though that's not what I wanted to do initially, I'm not very comfortable with it. I'm getting more and more comfortable because now I'm 2 years in. But before 2 years ago, I never spoken on stage before. that has had a really big impact on our consulting business, on our agency business. It's allowed us to grow that business without any marketing spend. Everything's been inbound because of that. And obviously that's just a part of it, right? That's not going to make an agency successful. That's just one small piece. These are all just tips. You can't have an agency without other incredible partners, right? You can't have an agency unless you have great operators, great managers, great deal people, great salespeople. So we're lucky with Unicorn because my partner Jeremy's incredible at biz dev, at relationships, at all the things that I'm not great at. He's great at. We have Christopher who's great at operations. We have all these people on our team. But I do think having a face, having influence, especially in our community in the marketing world, is more important now than ever. So that's number 3. I'm going to try to go through these a little quicker because I only have 14 minutes left. If I miss any, I'll have to append this and do another shoot to add more to it. Okay. Know when to say no. This is a tough one, right? It's hard to say no to money, especially when you're not making a lot of money. It's very hard to do it. But I think it's one of the best skills an entrepreneur and especially an agency owner can have is saying no to the right people. Saying yes to the right people, saying no to the right people. Or if you want to make more sense, say no to the wrong people. But technically the saying would be you're saying no to the right people, which are the wrong people. How about that for a mind fuck there? So there are going to be a lot of business owners out there that have very little money, that have very little runway, that don't have a lot going for them. But they might have a few grand that they're going to throw at you and say, hey, I expect the moon, right? I expect you to make my product work, even if my product sucks. You need to be able to say no to those clients. You need to be able to recognize that this is a bad product. This is a bad brand. This client is at the end of their runway and they don't have enough money to make this work. You need to be able to do that due diligence, and you'll be doing that business owner a favor by telling them that instead of just taking their money, spending it, and then them going out of business anyway, right? Be transparent, be authentic, be upfront. It'll save both parties a lot of headaches and a lot of money actually in the long run, because instead of now taking that client on for a few grand a month, you're able to free that time up to invest in your other clients, growing their spend, making more money that way, and making sure you have a spot open for an actual great client that could come and be the perfect fit for you, right? So there's an opportunity cost of taking the wrong client. Okay. Creating referrals and partnerships. This goes back to specializing, right? If you specialize, you have to say no to a lot of people because people might want you to do their other services. They might say, hey, I know you do Facebook ads. We get this all the time, but can you build our funnels? But can you do our messenger marketing? But can you do this, right? And we tell them, well, no, that's not what we do. Sure, we could do it, but we don't do it. However, we know Joe Schmo, and Joe Schmo is the best funnel builder. Jane Doe is the best native advertiser, right? We have all these players we've built relationships with over the last 5+ years. So we know the best people in the world at all these different things who are way better than us at these different areas. And we built relationships with them. We're partners. So we referred business to them. The person that's working with us now gets better quality work because it's another specialized shop that's doing it. We make money as basically a referral partner. So we get a commission, which usually in service businesses is monthly and it's recurring, which is great. So you're building up a passive recurring cash flow that you're doing no work for. You just referred the business to a partner. And if the partners you're building relationships with are really, really good at what they do, that could be for months. It could be for years. You're collecting a check and you're not doing anything, right? So I think specializing, knowing to say no, and building those partnerships is a money formula where you can start just getting reoccurring cash coming in because you referred the client to the best social agency, the best native advertiser, the best Google agency, the best creative agency, right? You can all of a sudden have referred out a big client to 6 different vendors and you could be getting 6 different checks every month because of them. Not a bad deal, right? Okay, so that's creating referral partnerships. Now we got number 6. So number 6 is grow conservatively. I know it can be very, very tempting to pour the fuel on, right? Pour the gasoline on the fire and just grow it as fast as you can. Especially if you have a lot of leads and a lot of people that want to give you money. I can't tell you how much I wish I could go back in time and grow slower with our first agency. So with Quantum, we had everything going for us, right? We had a great team. We had great inbound leads. Sure, we were taking some bad clients here or there, but we were really doing well in the beginning. and we just grew too quick, right? We got a second office. We hired a bunch of salespeople. We hired a bunch of production people. We just hired really, really fast. All of a sudden, our overhead just ballooned. Our overhead probably increased by 4 or 5x in a matter of 30 to 45 days, right? Now, here's the challenge with that is once your overhead grows, especially when you have like new fixed costs, like office space and stuff, where you can't just say, hey, next month we don't want the office space anymore. You need to bring in more cash, right? And what does that make you do? Well, that makes you now go against a lot of the things we just listed before. It goes against number 4, which is no one to say no. Because now you're saying yes to people you should be saying no to. It makes you go against number 1, which instead of specializing, now you're doing more services, right? It makes you go against number 2, which is don't become a commodity, because now you're willing to concede on price to get the client close the deal. It makes you go against all the other tips we've already listed, because now you need to make payroll. You need to hit your rent, right? You need to hit these revenue goals. Otherwise, you lose money. And it's all because you grew too fast, right? So grow slower, grow smarter, build up a nice little nest egg, right? Of, you have a good buffer. You're, pocketing 70, 60% of what you're making every month. And you can just put that aside, grow a little nest egg before you start really growing, right? Before you start hiring and getting all these new expenses. It'll really help you in the future once you are ready to really scale. Okay. Number 7, build assets. So what do I mean by saying build assets? Well, I don't mean go out there and start building homes or building things. But I do mean building, tangible properties that you, the agency owner, own outright. Because the problem with an agency is you're building everybody else's assets. You're building everybody else's dreams, right? You're putting all this time and work and effort and expertise into building somebody else's business that, hey, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, they might sell that business for $100 million. They might go public for $1 billion. And you have no stake in that, right? So what we're looking at is, well, how can we leverage our relationships on the consulting side to actually build either fully outright owned or co-owned assets? So if you're doing, lead gen for a financial services company, right? Maybe you build a property together where you can now start doing stock tips and stock advice and financial advice and bringing other financial offers on the back end. You can build a web property and you can do, email marketing with offers on the back end that have CPAs and CPLs on it. There are a lot of ways that you can take what you're doing on the front end with a client and build a mutually beneficial asset on the back end that you can own together. That's a win-win for both parties to make more money. And now you have something tangible that is either fully owned or co-owned by your agency. So now you're not just depending on other businesses. You actually have things that you own outright. And that's what we did with Quantum with our Trump coin, right? We built a property that we owned outright. It was our business, not a client's business. And ironically, about, I would say, almost half of our revenue for that year came from this product, right? From one product that we own compared to all of our agency clients, right? And this continues to pay dividends, okay? And I have a lot more to talk about in the build assets, so we'll probably do a whole nother video on how to do that, right? So what do you got? Set expectations, number 8, okay? So one of the biggest problems that agencies encounter with their clients is a misalignment in expectations because the agency owner or the salesperson or the account manager didn't properly set expectations before taking the client on, right? So most business owners, when they hire an agency, they're expecting a blend of what they hear in public. So they hear all these things in Facebook groups at events, and they have these absurd expectations sometimes. Actually, a lot of time, their expectations are not aligned with reality, right? They might expect to be profitable in a week. They might expect to be getting 10x returns. They might expect that they're going to, only need to spend $1,000 testing. Whatever it might be, they might have these expectations. And if you don't set that up front before they sign the deal, that, hey, it could take 45 to 60 days before we actually find something that works. That's our test period. It might take, $40,000 in spend before we get profitable. It might, our best ROAS might only be 4x or 3x, right, at scale, but you're profitable at 1.5. So these are the things you need to talk about with your client from day one. So 30 days in, 45 days in, 1 week in, they're not calling you saying, hey, I expected that we would be here and we're not there. I don't like this. I'm really pissed off. Now they're calling you. You're freaking out because they're going to cancel all this stuff, right? So set those expectations from day one in terms of how long the testing period is going to be. What do you expect the client to give you versus what are you going to create in-house for them? Creative, asset, landing page, whatever it might be. What are their KPIs, right? What ROAS do they need to be at to be profitable? So all of these things need to be discussed before. And if they are, you dramatically increase the lifetime of that client, how long they're going to be with you, and also the experience while they're there with you, right? It's going to be a much more pleasant work environment. All right, last two. Number 9 is be selective. I think this kind of goes back to a few other points. I don't think enough agency owners are selective with their clients. You need to realize that they're coming to you because they need your expertise, right? If they didn't need what you had to offer, they wouldn't be talking to you. They'd be doing it themselves. But the reality is that most businesses really, really struggle with paid traffic. They really struggle with acquiring customers, organically or paid, with monetizing customers. And if you're really good at what you do, you need to value yourself properly, right? Don't sell yourself short. Don't start dropping the price as soon as they flinch a little bit. You need to understand that you have value and you need to be compensated that's at a level that's at your value you're offering, right? So be selective with who you're working with, right? Only take on clients that you genuinely like, that you really believe in the product, that you believe that this client has the possibility to become $1 billion company, right? For us, if we don't think it's $1 billion opportunity, we don't want to take it. It's not worth our time, right? If we think, hey, this is an interesting little gadget, but it's like a fidget spinner, it's gonna, fizzle out in 6 months, 12 months. They want to pay us 10 grand a month. Most people will take that. We don't want to take that, right? We look at our long-term opportunity costs, right? Because, hey, maybe this is short-term cash, but in 6 months, we're going to be starting from scratch again. I'd rather work with a business, with a brand, with a product, with a partner that's building something that can be $1 billion opportunity, that can go public, that can be acquired, that has a lot of opportunities for us to get involved at a deeper level. So we're very, very selective with who we work with, right? We're probably more selective with who we let retain us than clients are looking for agencies. And I think that's allowed us to be very successful. Okay, final one. I'm actually able to do this on time. I got 2 more minutes left. Make sure you're doing it for love and not money. I think a lot of people get into drop shipping. They get into print on demand. They get into the social media marketing agency because they see it all over Facebook and they see people making money and sharing screenshots, right? And they get into it because they think that's their quickest path to making money. And I can tell you flat out that if you're getting into the agency game, the only reason it's like to make money, you're making the wrong decision, right? Building an agency requires a massive commitment. It is a huge resource investment, both time and capital. It is a drain dealing with client after client, fire after fire. Like I said in the beginning, the client is always going to blame you for everything, right? Especially if you're doing paid traffic, you're the scapegoat for everything, right? They're always going to be unhappy. My partner Jeremy was at one of our masterminds we're a member of. It was about, I think, 50 people in the room, all successful 8-figure plus business owners. He asked, how many of you are unhappy with your agency right now? Every single person in the room raised their hand except for one person. That's crazy, right? So you need to be doing this because you genuinely love working with lots of businesses, providing those agency services, building relationships with different companies. Like, you need to do it for love and for passion and not for money. Because again, if you do it for money, you will fizzle out. You'll hit your first roadblock and be like, this is way too much work. This is way more of a headache than I thought it was going to be. It's not growing nearly as fast as I could be. And I think that number 10 tip should be applied to everything when it comes to entrepreneurship. Don't take an opportunity unless you love the opportunity, unless you're passionate about it. If you're doing it purely for money, you are going to most likely fail. You're definitely not going to realize the full potential of that opportunity if it's just for money. So anyway, guys, that's my top 10 agency tips. Hopefully you found value in that. At least one of those tips you can kind of pull and say, hey, I didn't think about that. If there's other topics you want me to cover, drop a comment below. Let me know what you want me to cover in future videos. And if you want me to go deeper on any of these tips, just let me know. Tag me in the comments, and I'll shoot another video for it. Thanks, everybody.